The settlers had beaten her bloody and were raising rusted shears toward her hair when the Comanche warrior stepped from behind the rocks. Dust swirled between them like a curtain waiting to fall. Zephyr Thornfield knelt in the dirt with her, hands bound behind her back. Blood trickled from her split lip. Her brown dress hung in tatters. The afternoon sun burned overhead without mercy. Silas Grimwood held the shears near her face. His cold eyes studied her like she was livestock. 2 other men flanked him. Their faces carried the particular cruelty of those who believed themselves righteous. The shears caught the light. Grimwood's voice carried the weight of assumed authority. Cutting your hair is just the start. Gonna mark you proper so every bounty hunter from here to Louisiana knows what you are. Zephy lifted her chin. Her voice came steady despite everything. I ain't nobody's property. The arrow embedded in the ground 3 inches from Grimwood's boot. All 3 men spun toward the sound. The Comanche warrior emerged from the boulder field with his bow still drawn. Another arrow sat ready on the string. He was younger than Zephy had expected, maybe 28. His dark hair fell past his shoulders. Intelligence lived in his eyes alongside something harder to name. Purpose, maybe. Or old grief. Step away from her. His English carried an accent but no uncertainty. Grimwood's hand drifted toward his gun. The other 2 settlers shifted nervously. They had expected to deal with one defenseless woman. Not this. This ain't your concern. The warrior's gaze never wavered. His bowstring remained taut, making it my concern. Silence stretched between them. Zephy watched from her knees. She understood standoffs, had seen them on the plantation when overseers pushed too far. Someone always blinked first. The question was who? The warrior had positioned himself well. Higher ground, clear sightlines. If shooting started, at least one of the settlers would fall before they could draw. Maybe 2. Grimwood was many things but not stupid. He stepped back from Zephy. His jaw worked like he was chewing something bitter. Cut her loose, boys. The rope fell away from her wrists. Zephy rubbed feeling back into her hands. The beaded bracelet on her left wrist caught the light. For just a moment, something flickered across the warrior's face. Recognition, maybe. But he said nothing. Grimwood spat in the dust near her feet. This ain't over. We know where to find you both now. The 3 men mounted their horses. Grimwood reined his animal around to face them again. His voice carried the promise of violence. Enjoy your time together. Won't last long. They rode east toward the settlement. Dust clouds marked their passage long after they disappeared. The warrior finally lowered his bow. He moved to where Zephy still knelt in the dirt. You hurt bad? She took inventory. Bruises, split lip, aching ribs where they had kicked her. Nothing broken. I'll live. He offered his hand. She hesitated. On the plantation, help always came with a price. Nothing was free, especially not from strangers. But she took his hand anyway. He pulled her to her feet with surprising gentleness. Up close, she could see old scars on his knuckles, a thin white line along his jaw. This was a man acquainted with violence, but not ruled by it. Why help me? He didn't answer right away. His eyes kept drifting to her bracelet. Finally, he looked toward the eastern horizon where smoke columns rose like dark prayers. Your people and mine ain't exactly allies. Everything is connected. They see us both as obstacles. The smoke was getting thicker. More columns appeared. Whatever was coming from the east was bigger than 3 angry settlers. Can you travel? Zephy nodded. She had been traveling for 3 weeks since escaping Blackwood Plantation. Her feet knew the rhythm of hard ground. Her body understood the necessity of movement. Where we going? He shouldered his bow and started north toward the canyon country. His moccasins made no sound on the rocky ground. Somewhere they can't find us. Not easily. She followed him into the maze of red stone and shadow. Behind them, the smoke columns multiplied against the pale sky. Whatever was coming, it was big enough to change everything. The warrior moved like he knew every stone in these canyons, every hidden path and secret water source. Zephy tried to match his silence. Her worn boots were louder than she liked on the stone. They climbed steadily upward. The settlement sounds faded below them. Only wind and the distant cry of a hawk broke the silence. After an hour, he stopped at a narrow ledge. Below them stretched a hidden canyon with grass and a thin stream. A place that could hide them both. "We rest here." Zephy sank onto a flat rock. Her whole body ached. The adrenaline was wearing off, leaving exhaustion in its wake. The warrior studied the horizon. Those smoke columns were closer now. More numerous. Whatever was burning down there, it was spreading. "They're not just hunting you anymore." The words carried weight beyond their simple meaning. Zephy understood. She had brought something down on both of them. Her escape had lit a fuse that was still burning. "I'm sorry." He looked at her then, really looked, like he was seeing her for the first time. "Don't be sorry, be ready." The smoke rose higher against the darkening sky. Whatever came next would test them both in ways they couldn't yet imagine. The hidden canyon held them like cupped hands. Water trickled over smooth stones. Grass grew thick where the stream pooled, a place forgotten by the world above. Ayana gathered dry wood while Zephy cleaned her wounds in the stream. The cold water stung her split lip. Blood swirled away in pink ribbons. Her reflection wavered in the current. Broken face made whole by moving water. "What do I call you?" "Ayana Red Hawk." She nodded. The name fit him, sharp and clean as winter wind. "I'm Zephyra. Most folks call me Zephy," he added, kindling to a small fire. The flames cast dancing shadows on the canyon walls, light and dark chasing each other in endless circles. Zephy rolled up her sleeves to wash her arms. The beaded bracelet caught firelight. Blue and white patterns wound around leather cord. Ayana's hands stilled on the firewood. "Tell me about yourself." She settled beside the fire. The warmth felt good after the cold stream. Her story came in pieces. 3 weeks running from Blackwood Plantation, moving north toward Kansas Territory. Sleeping in caves and hollow logs, eating what she could find or steal. Always planned to be free. Just took me 19 years to find the courage. Ayana fed the fire with careful hands, each stick placed with purpose. "What about you? Why you out here alone?" His jaw tightened. The fire crackled between them. "My people are being pushed west, sacred places burned, water sources poisoned. So this is about your land, not about helping me." The words came out sharper than she intended. Ayana looked at her across the flames. Orange light carved shadows under his cheekbones. "Everything is connected. They see us both as obstacles." Wind stirred the grass around them. Somewhere in the distance, a coyote called. The sound echoed off canyon walls. Lonely and wild and free, Zephy pulled her knees to her chest. The beaded bracelet slid down her wrist. Ayana's eyes followed. "The movement, that bracelet, where did you get it?" Her hand moved protectively to cover it. The only thing she owned that had belonged to her mother. Blue and white beads worn smooth by years of touch. "It was my mama's. Only thing I got left of her." Ayana went very still. The kind of stillness that comes before lightning strikes. "Before the world changes forever. Your mother." "What was her name?" "Never told me her real name. Said it belonged to another life. Another person who died long ago." The fire popped. Sparks drifted upward toward the stars. Ayana reached across the space between them. His fingers hovered near the bracelet but didn't touch. "This beadwork, I know it." Zephy's heart started beating faster. Something in his voice. Something like recognition and grief wound together. What you mean, you know it. Ayana pulled his hand back, closed it into a fist. When he spoke, his voice carried the weight of old wounds. I had a sister, Onawa. She made beadwork just like this. The pattern, the colors, everything. The canyon walls seemed to lean inward. The fire dimmed as if afraid to illuminate the truth hanging between them. Slavers took her 5 years ago. From a raiding party, we found blood. Torn clothes. Presumed her dead. Zeffie's world tilted. The bracelet felt suddenly heavy on her wrist, like it carried more than memory. Like it carried truth. My mama never talked about before. Where she came from. Just said she was from far away. Ayana studied her face in the firelight, searching for something. His sister's eyes, her nose, the shape of her hands. Your mother. Was she Comanche? The question hung in the air like smoke. Zeffie touched the bracelet with trembling fingers. All those years wondering where she came from. Why her mother's eyes held such sadness. Why she spoke of home as something lost forever. I don't know, maybe. But even as she said it, pieces began falling into place. Her mother's strange lullabies. The way she read weather signs. How she could move through woods without making sound. Ayana leaned forward. The fire painted his face in shades of hope and disbelief. If only long enough to have a daughter. The words trailed off, too big to speak aloud, too fragile to survive in open air. Thunder rumbled in the distance. Storm clouds gathered overhead. The first drops of rain began to fall. Cold spots on warm skin. They moved deeper into the canyon. Where an overhang provided shelter, the rain came harder, washing the world clean, washing away what they thought they knew. Zeffie pulled the bracelet off her wrist, held it up to catch the firelight. The blue beads were the color of deep water, the white ones like bone or teeth. If she was your sister, if she was my mama, what does that make us? Ayana took the bracelet with reverent hands, turned it over, examined each bead, each careful stitch. His fingers traced patterns his sister's fingers had made. Family. The word fell between them heavy as rain, heavy as hope. Heavy as the truth neither had expected to find in this hidden place. Lightning split the sky. Thunder followed close behind. The storm was moving fast, bringing change in its wake. But deeper in the canyon, hoofbeats echoed off whetstone. The sound of many horses moving through the night. Moving toward them with purpose. Ayana's head snapped up. He counted beats. Estimated numbers. His hand found his bow. They found us. Rain poured harder, washing away their tracks. But too late. The hunters were already here. The hoofbeats passed overhead. Faded into distance and rain. False alarm. But the danger remained real as the storm. Ayana pressed against the canyon wall. Water dripped from the overhang onto his shoulders. He counted minutes. Listened for sounds that didn't belong to wind and weather. We can't stay here, Zeffie nodded. The bracelet felt different on her wrist now, heavier, like it carried the weight of 2 lives instead of 1. Her mother's, her aunt's. Both stolen. Both lost to the same cruel machine. Where do we go? Ayana studied the rain-dark canyon. Water rushed where the stream had been, flash flood coming. The walls would funnel it straight through their hiding place. Higher ground, then we warned my people. They climbed wet stone in darkness. Ayana's hands found holds his eyes couldn't see. Muscle memory from childhood games played in these same rocks. Zeffie followed his movements. Trusted his knowledge of this vertical world. The storm passed as quickly as it had come. Stars emerged between breaking clouds. Below them, water roared through the canyon floor. Their fire hissed and died in the flood. From the rim, they could see lights in the distance, too many lights, moving in organized patterns. How many you think? Ayana counted the points of light. Estimated horses, men, weapons, 30, maybe more. Too many to fight. Too many to hide from much longer. The net was closing around them. They want me bad. Not just you anymore. His voice carried grim certainty. By helping her, he had made himself a target. By standing with her, he had declared war on everything they represented. They moved north along the rim, staying low, using shadows. The land rolled away beneath them in waves of stone and sage, beautiful and hostile under starlight. After an hour, they found another place to rest. A shallow cave facing north toward Comanche territory. Ayana built a small fire deep in the shadows, enough for warmth, not enough to be seen. Tell me about your people. Ayana fed twigs to the flames. His face was thoughtful in the orange light. We move with the seasons, follow the buffalo, live free. Sounds nice. Was nice. Before they started pushing west. Before they decided. We were in their way, Zephy understood. She had lived her whole life being in someone's way. Being something to be moved. Controlled. Owned. What will you tell them? About me? The truth. Your family. Blood calls to blood. The fire crackled. Outside, wind moved through the sage. Restless and seeking. Always moving towards something, just out of reach. Dawn came slow and gray. Ayana disappeared before first light, scouting, reading sign. When he returned, his face was stone. They burned the winter camp. The words hit Zephy in the chest. All those people, families, children, dead, scattered. Some escaped. Others, he didn't finish, didn't need to. Zephy felt something break inside her chest. The careful walls she had built around her heart. The protection that had kept her alive on the plantation. It crumbled like sand. This is my fault. Ayana looked at her, really looked. Like he was seeing her for the first time since learning they were family. No, this was always coming. You just gave them an excuse to do what they wanted to do anyway. But she could see the pain in his eyes. The weight of knowing his people had paid for his choice to help her. What now? Now we make them pay. The words carried finality, like a door closing or opening. They spent the day planning. Ayana knew the country. Every trail and water source. Every place to make a stand or disappear. Zephy knew something else. The way white men thought. The patterns they followed. The weaknesses they carried. They'll have someone in charge, someone giving orders. Grimwood, maybe, but someone above him. Someone with real authority. Ayana considered this. Power structures, chains of command. The way armies worked, military, has to be. This is too. Organized for just angry settlers. As if summoned by their words, dust rose in the south. A column of riders moving fast. Too fast to be casual. Someone had given them purpose, direction. They watched from the cave mouth. Counted horses. Studied. The way the men rode, military discipline. Professional hunters. We need to know who's leading them. Ayana nodded. Intelligence before action. Know your enemy before you face them. There's a place where they'll have to stop for water. We can get close. Listen. The sun climbed toward noon. Heat shimmered off the stone. The riders would need water soon. Men and horses both. They moved carefully across the broken land, using every scrap of cover, every shadow. Ayana moved like part of the landscape. Zephy tried to match his silence. The water hole lay in a depression between two ridges. A place where armies had always stopped, where secrets were shared and plans revealed. They found positions on the ridge above, hidden among the rocks, close enough to hear voices, far enough to run if discovered. The riders arrived at mid-afternoon. 37 men, mix of military and civilian. At their head rode a man in uniform, captain's bars on his shoulders, authority in his bearing. Captain Bradley Thorne. Zephy recognized the type: ambitious, ruthless, the kind of man who saw opportunity in others' suffering. Set up camp here. Rest the horses. Grimwood rode beside him. Civilian clothes but military posture, taking orders from the captain. What? About the winter camp survivors? Let them run. Spread the word. Fear is better than bodies sometimes. Zephy's hands clenched into fists. These men spoke of murder like discussing the weather. And the girl? The girl is the key to everything. She proves they're working together. Gives us justification for what comes next. Thorn dismounted near the water, pulled off his hat, wiped sweat from his forehead. Once we have her, we move on the main camps. Clean them out completely. Open the whole territory for settlement. The words fell between the rocks like stones into still water. Ripples of understanding spread outward. This wasn't about justice, or law, or even revenge. This was about land, about money, about clearing. Obstacles to profit. Zephy was just the excuse they needed. Above them on the ridge, she met Ayana's eyes. Saw her own understanding reflected there. They weren't just hunting a runaway slave and the Indian who helped her. They were planning genocide. The truth hung between them heavy as summer thunder. Genocide dressed up as law enforcement. Zephy pressed her face against the stone. The rock felt cool against her burning cheek. They crawled backward from the ridge, away from the voices planning death. Distance first, then decisions. In a wash a mile north, they stopped to breathe. Ayana sat on his heels, stared at nothing, processing what they had heard. Your people, how do we warn them? Too late for warnings. They're scattered, hiding, running. His voice carried the weight of helplessness, the bitter taste of being too small against something too large. Zephy touched her mother's bracelet, felt the smooth beads worn by loving fingers. 2 women stolen. 2 lives destroyed by the same hunger for land and power. Then we stop it at the source. Ayana looked at her. Something shifted in his expression. Hope maybe, or recognition of shared purpose. Thorn. They had no army. No weapons beyond Ayana's bow and their own desperate courage. But they had something Thorn didn't expect. Knowledge of his real plan. There's a man in town. Sheriff Mason Hartwell, honest as they come. Ayana's eyebrows rose. Honest lawmen were rare as water in drought country. You sure? Sure as I can be about any white man. But he's got a reputation. Fair to everyone, even people like us. The plan formed between them without words. Dangerous. Requiring trust in systems that had never protected either of them. But the only chance they had. We need proof. They made their way toward town as shadows lengthened. Staying off the main trails, using dry washes and rocky ground that held no tracks. 3 miles out, they found what they needed. A supply wagon. Heading toward Thorn's camp, single driver, no escort. The wagon carried more than food and ammunition. Papers, orders, evidence of the conspiracy they had overheard. Ayana put an arrow into the ground near the driver's feet. The man hauled back on his reins, looked around wildly for the source of the shot, climbed down, walk away. The driver needed no further encouragement. He abandoned his wagon and ran toward town on foot. By the time he brought help, they would be long gone. The papers told the story in black ink on white paper. Orders from territorial authorities. Payment vouchers for civilian militia. Maps marking Comanche camps for destruction. But deeper in the stack, they found something worse. Correspondence with plantation owners in Texas and Mexico. Agreements to buy captured Comanche as slave labor. Thorn wasn't just clearing land, he was harvesting people. Zephy's hands shook as she read the documents. Her mother's story written in bureaucratic language. Purchase orders for human flesh. Onawa. Ayana's voice was barely a whisper. His finger traced a name on one of the lists. Recent acquisitions. Still alive. Still enslaved. His sister lived. The knowledge hit them both like physical blows. Hope and horror wound together. She was alive but suffering. Reachable but protected by distance and armed men. We save them all, or we save none. Zephy folded the papers carefully. Evidence of crimes that stretched from here to Mexico City. Proof that would hang Thorne if they could get it to the right person. Sheriff Hartwell lived above his office on Main Street. Light showed in his windows as full dark settled over the town. A man working late, or unable to sleep. They approached. From the alley behind the building. Ayanna stayed hidden while Zephy climbed the outside stairs. Her knock was soft but persistent. Hartwell opened the door with a gun in his hand. Lowered it when he saw her. His face showed surprise but not hostility. "You're the girl they're hunting." "Yes, sir." He studied her face in the lamplight. "Looking for something. Danger, maybe, or truth. Why come to me?" She handed him the papers. Watched his expression change as he read. Surprise became anger. Anger became cold determination. "This is treason." "Yes, sir." "You know what this means?" "What they'll do to you for having these." "Yes, sir." Hartwell set the papers on his desk. Looked at her with something approaching respect. "What do you want from me?" "Justice." The word hung between them, simple and complicated. Easy to say and hard to deliver. "There's a federal marshal due through tomorrow, taking the evening stage to Santa Fe." Zephy nodded. Federal authority trumped territorial corruption. If they could reach him, Thorne won't wait for marshals. He'll move tonight. Hartwell pulled on his coat, checked his gun. Made his choice. "Then we better move first." They rode out before dawn. Hartwell, Zephy, and Ayanna. An unlikely alliance bound by shared purpose. The papers rode in Hartwell's saddlebags. Evidence that would end Thorne's scheme. If they lived long enough to present it. They found Thorne's camp at sunrise. The captain stood beside his horse, giving orders to mounted men. Ready to ride toward the scattered Comanche camps. Captain Thorne. Hartwell's voice carried across the camp. Men turned. Hands. Moved toward weapons. "Sheriff, you're outside your jurisdiction. Federal crimes don't have jurisdictions." Thorne's eyes found Zephy, then Ayanna. Understanding dawned on his face. "You have something that belongs to me. I have evidence of slave trading, conspiracy, treason." The words fell into sudden silence. 37 men processing the implications. Some began edging away from Thorne. Others moved closer. Thorne reached for his gun. Grimwood's shot took him in the shoulder. Spun him around. Dropped him to his knees. "I may be a lot of things, but I ain't no slave trader." The camp divided instantly. Thorne's loyalists against men who drew the line at human trafficking. The fight was brief and decisive. When the dust settled, Thorne knelt in the dirt with his hands bound. The same position Zephy had been in when this all started. Justice wearing familiar clothes. The federal marshal arrived on schedule. Took custody of Thorne and his remaining supporters. The papers told their story in cold legal language. Trials would follow, convictions, prison sentences. The machinery of justice grinding slow but sure. But for Zephy and Ayanna, the real work was just beginning. Onawa still waited in chains somewhere south of the border. Other families remained. Scattered and broken. They stood together in the main street as the marshal's wagon rolled away. Uncle and niece, family found in the midst of chaos. Ready to go get her? Ayanna adjusted his bow across his shoulders. Looked south toward Mexico and whatever waited there. Been ready for 5 years. They walked toward the livery stable. 2 figures against the morning sky. The bracelet caught sunlight on Zephy's wrist. Blue and white beads that had survived slavery and loss in time itself. Some things endured. Family, hope, the promise that stolen people could find their way. Home, the road south stretched before them, long and dangerous and full of possibility. They had found each other. Now they would find the rest. And that is all to the story, for now. Please let me know where you are tuning in from. Perhaps we will create a story there. Consider liking this video and subscribing to our channel. And if you enjoy our content, click this video on your screen. I promise you, it's worth watching. See you tomorrow.